Good morning. Today we are working on our last graph of this unit. We are starting with finishing our graph with CO65, interpreting and creating circle graphs. So a circle graph, or it's sometimes referred to as a pie chart, because when we look at that circle graph, it looks like it's divided up like you would cut up a pie. So some people call it pie charts. What it is a graph that displays data as sections of a circle. So a circle graph, surprise, surprise, looks like a circle. The entire circle, this is important, entire circle equals 100% of the data. So it is all of our data is in the circle. So if it's the whole complete circle, is all our data, 100%. Circle graphs represent data using percentages. So remember, we learned a couple of objectives ago on the review. It's important to pay attention what each graph is used for. So if we want percentages, we use the circle graph. Here's an example of a circle graph showing the results of a survey about foreign language studies. So it's telling us what percentage of students speak the different languages. So foreign languages studied. We can see French is 30%. So that amount out of that circle is 30%. I'm not sure what the giggles are about, but it's really distracting me and throwing me off. Okay, we need stop. Italian is only 10%, German is 5%, and Spanish is that huge chunk of 55%. 55% is over half of 100%. So in our circle, it's going to look like over half. We can see that is that biggest section. We know Spanish is the big section because it is that pinky color and it's the pinky color in there. So you can use that key to help you know which language is in which section. Cameron, move to the front table. Thank you. So then we have to be able to read our graphs. What percentage of students surveyed study French? Madison. Yeah, that was an easy one. Sometimes our questions are easy questions. Sit on this side so we'll be able to see easier. Thank you. If 100 students were surveyed, how many study Italian? What do you think, Liam?
10.
How did you know it would be 10?
It's just, I just know, it's 10% of 100.
Because we had to take 10% of 100. So if I were to write that out and say 10% of 100, what math operation is the word of? Sawyer? Multiplying. What would we put into our calculator for 10%? Remember when we did converting from percents to decimals? Melanie? 0.10. 10% is the same as 0.10. So what is 0.10 times 100? Was Liam correct? So did you put it in your calculator?
It's 10.
It is 10. So Liam was able to do it in his head with mental math, which is fine. But there will be percentages that we don't know how to do mental math for. So we need to know what steps we have to take. So you take that percentage, you convert it to a decimal. Of means multiply. by that total number because that whole circle is 100. Ava.
On the test, we have to show our work. Like if it's something like this.
On the test, I look for the answer. So it's up to you if you want. I always say show your work because if you get it wrong, you'll know where you went wrong. So if you have to do a retake, you won't make that same mistake. So I always highly recommend showing your work. I'm not going to mark it wrong if it doesn't ask for it. If it's just asking for the answer, that's what I'm going to grade you on. But it really does help if you at least say 10% of 100, so we know what you were doing. Okay. If 50 students were surveyed, how many studied Spanish? Now, did you do it in your head or on the calculator?
I know,
You know, what is it?
30.
No, it is not. So sometimes when we can do mental math with stuff, we get overconfident. On the test, do we get any gold stars for doing mental math? No. No extra credit, no bonus points, no gold stars. On the test, use your calculator. Okay? So, if 50 students were surveyed, how many study Spanish? What is the math that I have to do? Who can tell me what math? Ava.
You have to do 0.55 times 100 and then you get 55.
Ooh, 0.55 times what? Spanish is 55%, but what is our total number of students now? 50. So they changed what our total was. So we have to be careful that we're reading the whole question. What is 55% of 50, Connor? Can we do a 0.5? No. So 27. Because we can't do a half a person. So we would say 27. If 3 students study German, how many students study French? So if 3 study German, ooh, now we really have to think through how to solve this. What do you think we have to do, Connor? So what we know is we know the percentage. We know how many people. We don't know is the total. So if we know our percentage of German is 0.05 times X. I don't know the total. I put a T for total. Okay, I don't know what it is, but it equals 3 students. How do I solve for X? Yeah, because I want to know how many the total are. So what would my total number of students be? So I have to figure out my total first before I can figure out how many study French. How many, Melanie? It is, how did you do that, Melanie? Because we have to do opposite operations. So we're going to divide by 0.05 and divide by 0.05. So that cancels out. So our total number of students is 60. Now, if we know our total number of students, can we figure out how many studied French? What do I have to do? Nope. Because there are more than just German and French. There's also Italian and Spanish. So you can't just subtract out those 3 from the 60, because there's lots of other languages being studied. How did we figure it out up here? How did we figure it out up here? What math do I have to do to figure out how many study French? Melanie? I have my percentage of French. I know my total. I multiply them together to see how many people that is that's studying French. What is 0.30 times 60, Zelda? 18. There are 18 people studying French. Sometimes when we're given graphs, we have to do multi-steps. So we were told how many people were studying German. From that, we could figure out how many people altogether there were. Once we know how many people altogether, we can figure out how many are studying each of those other languages. Connor.
I don't really know what I did, but I still got the answer right.
Did you write down what you did?
No. I thought it was 60. What was the 18?
0.30 times 60. We did that math in the calculator. What is, do it on your calculator, 0.3 times 60.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why it's important we have our calculators for this. Ava.
I'm confused kind of from the start when we did like 0.05 x equals 3. How did we get the number?
So we know that we have percent times the total equals the part. We learned that formula back when we were doing percentages, way long time ago. So we know the percentage of German was 5%, right? So that's my 0.05, that's 5%. Then we know that our part was 3. So I filled in the part. What we didn't know was the total. How many people altogether there were. So that's why we did that math, to find that there were 60 people that were surveyed. What? 0.5, 0.05, x equals 3. We have to solve for x. So that's when we did our division, that opposite operation to get x by itself. So we did opposite operation and divided 3 divided by 0.05. So using that opposite operation, we found out that our total number of people surveyed were 60. Then we use that to figure out how many studied French, using that same formula of the percent times the total. And I think when we actually did it as percentages, we called it the whole. Percent times the whole equals the part. We're going to keep moving, but if you want to review that again, we can. Now, it says survey your class for everyone's favorite pizza topping. Display your results in a circle graph. So let's come up with 5 toppings for a pizza, and you're going to tell me which one is your favorite. Okay, so somebody tell me one of your favorite toppings. Callie.
Cheese.
Yep. What's another topping that somebody has as a favorite? Sawyer. What's another topping that's a favorite? Madison. Yep. Jimena. We're just gonna keep pepperoni and sausage. Melanie. Onions. Callie. All right, so Which one is your favorite? Raise your hand if your favorite is cheese, just cheese topping. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is your hand up? Raise your hand if your favorite was pepperoni. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Raise your hand if your favorite was sausage. 1. I'll say mine is sausage. Did we have anybody with a favorite of onion? Anyone with the favorite of pineapple? All right, so we've got 3 types. We've got
Oh, I got tied.
cheese, pepperoni,
Exactly.
and sausage. So, what do I need to put in the key? Do I put the number when we're doing circle graphs? We put percent.
And we have to put like what it looks like.
So, we're gonna do that in the graph. So, what was our whole? What is 100% of us? How many of us were voting? What's an easier way to do it, Connor?
Add math.
20. There were 20 of us, so our whole is 20. So what percent chose cheese? What percent? If 9 out of 20 chose cheese,
48.
48%. How did you get that, Melanie?
I didn't do like that, but I did like 9 and 9 is,
No, I didn't.
It's not 48. What did you get, Claire? How did you get 45? Oh, Claire knows the math to put into your calculator. It is 9 out of 20. So 9 divided by 20 gives us 45%. We have another 9 out of 20, which is 45%. So what percent of us chose sausage? 2 out of 20. Okay, bud.
I got
Did you get one?
I was
What did you get? What is your decimal that you got? So, friends, if we have 0.1, is that 1%?
Oh, no.
What is it, Ruby? 10%. Because remember, percent's magic number is the hundreds place.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, Mrs. Bambino. I was just trying to get a picture of you and the soapbox. So just because Mrs. Gregory's in a couple and you're not in any, so fair, so just sit right where you are, guys. Are you gonna get everyone? Okay, perfect. Everybody look and smile. Thank you.
Oh, at least I'm wearing something cute today.
Exactly. Thank you, guys.
Okay, so now we know our percentages. There were a couple of different ways we could have found that 2 out of 20. One was doing the math, 2 divided by 20, but we have to remember to go to that 100th place. It is 10%. What's another way, Connor?
Add 45 plus 45 and then
Subtract it from 100, right? 45 plus 45 is 90. 100 minus 90, I know that the leftover would be 10%. Now I have to do my circle graph. 100 minus 90. So, if I were to go straight across my circle, what percent would that be? 50%. We're not talking degrees, we're talking percentages. 50% and 50%, half and half. So, our 45% is going to be just a little bit smaller than that 50%. Right? And then if I had that 50% there, so this would be a 50%, 45%, and this would be a 45%, and I'm left with 10%.
Wait, you said minus 100, right?
100 minus 90. Because I said take 90 away from 100.
Oh, I did. Oh.
Do you see how I figured out what my percentages should look like? We want to be careful that our lines on our circle graph they look logical. It would not look right if I called this much 45%. That's not logical. 45% is just under 50. So it should look just under 50%, 10%. Okay, make sure it looks logical. I'm not going to go out and actually measure it, but it does have to look right. Any questions on our circle graph? So let's look at our second page. We have questions about our circle graphs that were given. So these questions on top go with this circle graph. These questions on the bottom go with this circle graph. You might have to do those multiple steps to find the answers. Think about what we did on that first page to find some of those answers. You are given all the information you need, but you might have to do different things with that information. Sometimes it's really easy questions. Sometimes we have to do multi-steps. Don't forget to do the review at the bottom on each of those they're telling us what is happening. We have to say which graph we would use for it. So you're going to want to look to that line that's underneath every definition of the graphs. What do we use it for? Which one? There's a definite graph that we would use for each one of those examples. When you are finished with the homework for today, make sure your Khan Academy is done. That is due tonight. Then you're going to make sure that your math packet is done. That's due tomorrow. Then you're going to start working on a help sheet. So getting a note card and writing out each of those objectives, what it was that we were learning, definition of what the graph is, what we use that graph for, any important information for that graph. So starting on our help sheets. So there's nobody getting up and walking around. This is math work time. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day.